Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're giving you the first half of our Week 10 fantasy football starts and sits. We're here to help you make all the right decisions on who should be in your lineup, who you need to sit, and who's going to break your heart if you make a mistake. Let's start this fantasy football podcast right meow.
Hit that drop. Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Football Upside. I am Justin. That is Kyle. Thanks for dropping by our Fantasy Football podcast and YouTube channel. We appreciate it. Today, we are giving you the first half of our start-sit questions for Sunday and Monday games for this Week 10. Definitely check out our top start streamers and fades episode from yesterday by clicking the link in the corner where Kyle points and also in the description below. Kyle, what you got before we get rolling?
Hey, man, I want everybody to click subscribe, click that bell, because that notifies you every time that we upload a new episode.
Yep.
And you got to stay on top of it. We've had a lot of new subscribers lately, actually. It's been pretty awesome that we're getting a few of you guys. Make sure that you're sharing us with all of your friends or enemies. If you think that we're terrible, you can give us to those people too, right? I always like to say that, remind you of that option. Yeah, I mean, we had somebody recently, actually, who's a retired NBA player who subscribed, who played in the ABA. Yeah, he played in the ABA. He's a 5-time ABA All-Star. That's pretty impressive. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Grammy-winning daughter, too. Yeah. So thank you, Ralph Simpson. That's awesome for a subscribe there, bud.
Yep.
All right, guys. So make sure you double-check waiver wire, see what's hit the waiver wire. There's been some stuff in our league I've been a little bit surprised by.
A little bit of something.
A little bit. You managed to get, I told you to pick them up. You got them.
Yep.
Mike Davis.
Yep.
CMC owner, I don't want to say owner, but you had CMC rostered, and then, you managed to get Mike Davis. So that kind of pulls your feet out of the fire a little bit. That's helpful.
A little bit.
So yeah, let us know about your start sit questions. We're getting a lot of good questions, guys. We're really appreciative of that. And we're hoping that we're helping people, help you figure out how to make it from one week to the next and dominate your matchup for you. Because we're always asking, do you need assistance? Because we're more than happy to help, and we like to do that. So let's dive headfirst into the shallow end here today with our matchups, right?
We got the first one here is the Philadelphia Eagles versus the New York Giants. Just want to help you out. Make sure you get back into the page there for you. Hit me with the Eagles, your favorite team in the whole wide world.
Oh yeah, the Eagles, right? I mean, I'm not bitter about 4th and 26. And if you're an Eagles fan, you know what I'm talking about. All right. So Carson Wentz is a start for me. This is a decent defense against the QB. So I'm a little bit concerned there, but he's getting all of his weapons back slowly, but surely things are beginning to look a bit better for him. One of those weapons that he's getting back is Alshon Jeffrey, and it would just be an actual tragedy, I'm pretty sure, if they start featuring him over Fulgham and Reagor.
They probably will, man.
You know that they will. It'll be ridiculous. They'll throw 9 targets his way. He'll catch 2,
8 or 9 targets.
Yeah, he'll catch 2
for
and
17 yards.
He'll have a ton of offensive pass interference going on at the same time. So yeah. Anyway, other than Alshon Jeffrey, who I would not start. Miles Sanders is back. He's been limited early in the week here, but he was a full participant on Thursday, so he's good to go, I would guess. This is not a great matchup, but it is worth start even if he's held to a low snap count or something like that. I think this is a good opportunity. Jalen Reagor, he's somebody you need to grab in leagues that he's available in. If he is on the wire, go run out and get him. Find a way to put him into your bench for a while here. The last game that they had, he did not appear to just blow up, but that's because Wentz just did not hit him early enough or throw the ball early enough, and the defense, the Cowboys, managed to swat the ball away in a couple instances. He would have had a massive day had they not been able to do that. I am starting Travis Fulgham. I would actually, now that Alshon Jeffrey appears to be healthy, I would not put Ward out there at all. No. And then Dallas Goedert's a start for me as well, because he's the only tight end that's available, and Wentz has shown a propensity for throwing the tight end. So who do you have for the Giants?
For the Giants, I am looking at Wayne Gallman as a flex only if Freeman does not play. And that's Devontae Freeman, who I would sit. I mean, he's nursing an ankle injury, but I mean, he's just but he really, I mean, he's not much. He's always been running through quicksand in the last couple of years, so I don't really think too much of him. But wide receiver Sterling Shepard, I mean, he's been limited in practice this week, but he's projected to play, and he's getting a high target share since he came back from injury. So he's a higher volume wide receiver 3. Doesn't give you that much upside.
No.
Average depth of target's not really the greatest for Sterling Shepard. But I'm sitting Darius, but Evan Ingram.
Yeah.
What?
Slayton. I was just finishing.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just But Evan Ingram, tight end. I mean, let's try this again. He's back-to-back games of 10 targets. So and that means back-to-back top 10 weeks that he's been able to produce. So I think they're going to do the same. If they're going to throw it, it's either Shepard or Evan Ingram.
Sure.
That's what I got for the Giants.
All right, moving on. We got Jacksonville versus Green Bay at Green Bay. So why don't you go ahead and give us Jacksonville starts?
Absolutely. James Robinson. We've talked about this quite a bit on here. I think he made my top start of the week right now. So start your studs, especially against a defense giving up the second most points to opposing running backs. Maybe they're getting a little better after what you said on the episode yesterday.
Maybe.
Definitely check it out. Maybe.
Yeah.
DJ Chark is a start. Jair Alexander still has not been cleared. He may not play with a concussion. So fire DJ Chark up. Definitely start him. I actually have everybody else down as a sit. Like you just can't trust out of the Chris Conley, Keelan Cole, Laviska Shenault. You just can't trust anybody else out of that.
Yeah.
And, Who do you?
I have a question though for you. I have a question though for you. You said start your studs on Robinson. Would you classify him as a stud at this point? Is he a start every week? Period.
Oh yeah, I really do, because he is this offense. Even with a Minshew or Luton, however you say his last name, he is the offense, and he never comes off the field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, then. Moving on here to the Packers. I got a lot of starts here. Basically, my note from the top is start all Packers. And that's because this is a tragedy of a defense. This is just terrible. The Jaguars are. Aaron Rodgers is an obvious start. Aaron Jones is an obvious start. You're looking for a dominant week from him if you got him. Jamal Williams, I would throw into the flex if I could, possibly. He's been doing okay. I think that they want to take a little bit of the load off of Aaron Jones. That will be the only hindrance for him, is that they just don't want to overwork him toward the end of the year here. Devontae Adams, I have an actual serious question. Did we miss the point when he became Megatron 2.0? Like, did we miss that happening? I think it's kind of possible. Like, he's become that dominant this year.
Yeah.
That
he really has. I mean,
he's unguardable
this year. I mean, we've seen this. We've seen this. We've seen the fact that the Packers haven't brought in somebody on the other side to really help him. Yeah. So that means he's just taking everything. I mean, it's Michael Thomas, but more upside, if that makes any sense.
You know, usually the knock is on a wide receiver. Oh, he doesn't get off the line great, or his routes aren't as clean as they could be, or he doesn't get the contested ball, or he never gets over top. Literally all of those things, Devontae Adams is one of the top performers in the entire league.
Does very well.
And so it's just, it's blowing my mind, some of the stuff I'm seeing. I saw a stat today that just blew my mind. I don't think I told you this. I sent it to my brother, who's also a Packers fan, that there are 2 players in the history of the league to get 150 yards receiving, 10 plus catches in a week, and a TD or more in a week, at least 3 times in a year. And it's Devontae Adams this year in 6 games that he's played, and Calvin Johnson in 2012. And in those games, the Lions were 0-3 and the Packers are 3-0. So they're playing to win the game. They're not playing to try to catch up in the game. And he's still doing that.
Play to win the game?
But that's just, I think that highlights the point of he's performing at a level that really seriously is a sustained level that we haven't seen since Calvin Johnson was in the league.
Well, he's getting the yards that we kind of talked about going into the season that he hasn't really been getting that much. I mean, he's only had 1,000 yard season for a guy so dominant. I mean, he's going to pass that even probably in 6 games that he's already played. If he plays out, he's going to most likely pass that. So that's one thing.
But he's always
had the
been,
touchdowns.
Yeah, he's always been a double-digit touchdown guy. He's like, I don't know. It's like you could just write down 14 at the start of the year and go, there's your TD total. You know, go get some yards now. Yeah, it's crazy.
Go get him, champ.
Alan Lazard looks like he's going to be healthy. I think that you could flex
Nice.
him this week. So he's a possible play. Another possible flex for me is Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I think that he's kind of catching on. It looks like he and Rodgers are actually getting on the same page, and he's starting to understand a little bit more in the same way that Devontae Adams started to pick it up in his third year. He started to. It wasn't really until his fourth year that he really had a hold of it. Robert Tonyan rhymes with Funyon. This is a good matchup, and he is just waiting for the opportunity to blow up. I broke it down on the on our starters, streamers, and fades episode yesterday. So check that one out because I broke down all the stats that are falling in line for him, and he's in line for that blow up game. He just needs the targets to come his way, and he could be dominant in any given game then. All right, so let's move on here to Washington at Detroit. I'll knock out Washington. It won't take much to do. We've got Alex Smith because everybody else is dead at this point, I think, in the QB room. Man. Pretty much, yeah. So Alex Smith, I would start in a 2 QB or super flex or desperation type of situation. That's about it.
Super desperation.
Well, that charity league I'm in, that's a two well, it's not 2 QB, it's a super flex league with 22-man benches or 22-man rosters, right? So there's just massive. There's no starters available. I spent like half of my fab money to get Alex Smith because I'm like, I got a guaranteed start, but I got a guaranteed starter the rest of the season, and he's going to check down 17 passes to the next guy, which is JD McKissic, right?
Yeah.
And look, he's a must start if Gibson's out, which it's possible that Gibson's going to be out. He's on the injury report right now after missing practice on Wednesday. Pay attention to the injury report as far as he goes, because it looks like he's going to be out. And if he's out, then McKissic is the guy to go. But even if he's still in, he had half the snaps actually that McKissic got in week 9.
Yeah.
So it kind of looks like to me that McKissic's actually the running back here. And he's a target hog. Terry McLaurin is a start. Obviously Logan Thomas, I talked about him as well as a really good streaming option this week. Not because the matchup is great, but because there's really not a whole lot of options in this offense. It's got to go somewhere. And Alex Smith likes to throw short passes. So that's where I'm at. What do you have on the Lions?
No, I don't have too much either. Matthew Stafford is a 2 QB start. Truthfully, against this defense that actually is pretty good against opposing quarterbacks, and they have a good defensive line. DeAndre Swift with that good defense line is a desperation flex, really. It's like a 3-headed monster right now with Detroit because they're still giving a lot of carries to Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, Peterson's the problem. Peterson's the problem, I think, for Swift mostly. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Marvin Jones is a start because it's looking like Kenny Galladay is going to be out again. He's still not practicing. So I would fire him up as a wide receiver 3, but only because Galladay's out, and just be prepared to have no points out of Marvin Jones in the first half and then get your points there towards the end. As a Marvin Jones fantasy football owner, it's very frustrating.
Yeah.
This other one is TJ Hawkinson. Is a start, but he's missing practice right now because of a toe injury, which is not something that was, known during the game. So this is a new injury. So today, Friday, would be really key to knowing if he plays or not. So if he practices at least on a limited basis, he has a shot. And this could be a top 3 tight end if he does play, just because they have to throw it somewhere.
Eventually.
Yeah. So
just keep running and running, and then I guess we have to throw it now.
We got to throw it eventually. So we have the Houston Texans against the Cleveland Browns. Kyle, why don't you go ahead and give me the Texans?
All right, I like the Texans this week actually. And so Deshaun Watson's facing a bottom 10 defense against the QB, so this should be a week that he gets things moving for you. It looks like David Johnson's still going to miss due to a concussion, so that makes Duke Johnson a startable play. This week, Brandon Cooks, I'm leaning towards like a flex possibly. He's just too inconsistent for me. He did have a string of games where he seemed to catch on, but then he fell back off the pace a little bit. Will Fuller here is obviously wide receiver 1 in Houston now. And this is a good week to be a wide receiver in Houston, guys, because Cleveland gives up the 5th most fantasy points to the wide receiver position. So that is why I would lean more towards getting Brandon Cooks into the lineup, and I would put Randall Cobb into the flex, but only the flex.
Right.
He's too inconsistent. Kenny Stills, sit him down. Jordan Akins, I think you can start if it is a decent matchup for that for the tight end. He's been banged up a little bit here and there, so
Yeah.
but he was getting targeted last week. I saw some of that game, and
It's a
he's
roll of
getting
a dice type
quality
tight end,
targets.
and
Yeah.
that's really all this is now towards the end of the season. If you don't have a Travis Kelce or Darren Waller, it's a roll of a dice at tight
Yeah.
end. Sure thing.
Well, he's an upside tight end in my opinion, because this is an offense that does want to try to push the ball down the field in some way, shape, or form, and they do let him get down the field. So I think he's an upside tight end for you.
Yep.
All right, what do you got on Cleveland?
Baker Mayfield is a start if you're having to stream a quarterback right now. If you got someone on bye right now, this is a great streamer in my opinion. I mean, you could do a lot worse. That's for sure. Nick Chubb, welcome back. He is practicing. He's not officially off IR yet. If he is activated before the game, I think he definitely slots right into RB1 territory.
Yeah.
Against this defense, which I think is a top 5 again, giving up points to opposing running backs. And Kareem Hunt, if Chubb still sits, he's an RB1. But if he does play Chubb, I still could get RB2 value out of him. So definitely going to start both of them. Jarvis Landry, he's a wide receiver 3 or a flex. I mean, he's just very limited upside. It's always kind of been that way for him. He gets a high target volume, some yards, just not a whole lot of touchdowns. Austin Hooper is back practicing in full. So I feel very confident in firing him up, especially in this tight end wasteland. I mean, he could be a top 8 play for you. He could help you out and really get you a W somewhere.
One name I would toss into the pile here that you have as a sit is Rashard Higgins. I would actually consider starting him this week.
You think of starting him?
I would think I would consider starting him this week. I think that he's actually going to. I think you'll be surprised. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised. I think Rashard Higgins is a guy that people should be stashing right now.
Well, that's the thing, though. A lot of people said that before last week, and he put up a dud. So that's why,
in 50-mile-an-hour winds, he put up a dud.
Well,
that's what people are just not paying attention to. Look at what the weather was. Look at what he was doing the week before. In half a game, he killed it. And then the next game, everybody's like, oh, he's going to do great. But let's ignore the fact that there's 50-mile-an-hour winds. They weren't kicking from the 10-yard line for field goals in that game. That's how bad the wind was.
I got you. That's some good insight, man.
Yeah.
That's some good insight.
All right. Tampa Bay versus Carolina. Yep. I'll go ahead and get Tampa Bay here. Tom Brady back in QB1 rest of the way, guys. I wouldn't expect much more out of him. I wouldn't give him much more upside than that. So I think that you're going to get a decent game out of him this week, but it's back end tight end, or I'm sorry, QB1. I think I might have said tight end 1 as well the first time.
You may have. I was just going to people know.
It's that one time they lined him up outside in the Super Bowl, trying to recreate the Philly special or something.
Oh gosh.
Right? Yeah, I'm
just off the fingertips.
That. Yeah. Ronald Jones is a start. This is a good matchup. This is the 5th worst running back defense for fantasy points. So this is a good starting situation for running backs. They're going to give up a lot of points. Leonard Fournette, I would want to put him in my flex if I'm starting him. I wouldn't want him in my regular spots. Like I'm considering him as an RB3 on the best side. He's getting volume just like he did in Jacksonville. He was always getting volume down there. He's getting a little bit of volume there. He's still at like a 3 flat or something like that on his yards per carry. He's still atrocious. This guy does not see the hole. It is terrible. He looks like he's 40 plus years old and he has vision like he's 40 plus years old. Mike Evans is a start. I think this is a very tough matchup though, but he is getting back on track. I think you're going to get back on track with the TD because he was right there with Devontae Adams as far as like a TD every game. And then suddenly 2 games in a row, no touchdowns.
Yep.
But the targets are what I'm looking at coming back. Bruce Arians basically called out Tom Brady for not targeting Mike Evans. He's like, he was open. He was open. I don't know what you want out of me. Evans was open, and basically throwing Tom Brady under the bus. Chris Godwin, here's my question. What is going on with Chris Godwin this year?
I don't know, man. It's like he's never fully recovered from injuries and like he's just disappeared.
Yeah. He's like
a top 5.
He's averaging
receiver,
like 50 yards or something. I want to say, I think he only has, if he has any, he has like 1, maybe 2 triple digit yardage games. That's it. I mean,
Yeah.
and his targets are so inconsistent. That's another thing.
Yeah.
Not going to mention any other wide receivers because they're not worth starting, nor should they be in the league. And then Rob Gronkowski is a start. I like him. I like Rob.
Yeah.
He's doing a good job right now. It's all
he's getting back in it, man.
It's all the singing that he did. I think that in the offseason,
Yeah.
singing on The Masked Singer is what propelled him back into the conversation for a tight end one.
Well, it's really been able to help his lungs out. And
Yeah.
so he's definitely getting his, his wind back for him. So I think he's doing really well.
That could also be from all of the lung expansion that he did from holding his breath every puff he took in the offseason.
I don't know what you're talking about there.
Not at all. He's not invested. He's not invested in pot stock at all.
No. I thought CBD.
Yeah, it might be CBD, but that is a byproduct. He's probably using the other part.
He's like,
not anymore. Not anymore.
I'll give the other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So Carolina, what do you have?
Yeah, Carolina, it's one of those things where when we go through this, we usually have a ton of names for a team. Carolina is one, like, if you're going to have, where it's coming from.
Yeah.
You really know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
So right now,
five options.
You have 5 options. I mean, that's legit.
Half
but
of them
Mike
hurt.
Davis is a start because it looks like Christian McCaffrey is not going to play with the shoulder injury. May come back week 11.
Yeah,
we'll keep you posted next week. But he's a high volume running back too, even against this defense, because this defense is tough. Even though they did, what they just did against Saints, where the Saints just abused them.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to wide receivers, Robbie Anderson's a wide receiver too, even in this matchup. He has proven that he is a wide receiver too. I think moving on, and that means
I would disagree.
You would disagree, but the numbers are starting to. I know you like him as a wide receiver 3, but
I think it's an outlier game that he had.
Outlier game. He's had a lot of good non-outlier games though, bud.
No, he hasn't. So, he's literally been a wide receiver 3 in every week this season. That's why he's a wide receiver 3. But he shows up as a wide receiver 1 when you look at total points, because he's been a wide receiver 3 every week.
Yeah, but I mean, it's with more people on the bye. It's still like, you're going to give him as a wide receiver 2, and you're still going to get the value out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, he is the top wide receiver in this offense, in my opinion, because DJ Moore has just been a boomer bust wide receiver 3.
I think Curtis Samuel's waking up.
Curtis Samuel's waking up, but he's still more of a gadget player, even though he got a lot of targets, his most targets he's ever gotten, I think, last week. But it's still one of those things where he's a target player where he might be able to win you a game. But he could also put up a 2-pointer.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's really, you just don't know exactly what you're going to get out of him week in and week out. But I would definitely start him in the flex.
Yeah.
Yep. We got the LA Chargers versus Miami Dolphins. What do you got for the Chargers?
All right, Justin Herbert is a start. It's going to be a tough week, though. So,
it's a tough defense.
Yeah, this is a very tough pass defense, especially. So he's going to make some standard rookie mistakes, I would imagine, along the way, because they're going to force him into those situations. And Miami's been solid against the QB. So I think if you got Herbert, you're probably rolling with him no matter what at this point. Feel free to fire him up. He's going to get you yardage. He's going to get you some points. But don't imagine that he's going to carry you like he's carried you some weeks. The running back situation, this is what's unfortunate, is that the running back is the best position against Miami. But tell me which running back to start at this point. Now they've tossed in Kalen Ballage, right? So this is a real big problem. I would say that anybody that you start as running back for this team at this point has to be a flex, no better. So the only two worth considering are Joshua Kelly and Kalen Ballage. Kelly outsnapped Ballage, but he only had half as many carries. He was just over half as many carries. It was 16 carries to 9 carries, 16 in favor of Ballage. But he majorly outsnapped. Kelly outsnapped Ballage. So this just doesn't make any sense at this point. So in my opinion, I think you have to avoid this backfield, even though this is a good matchup. Really, I think there are better options. Keenan Allen is a start, but I'm guessing at best he'll put up a wide receiver 3 week for you. I think Mike Williams is a gamble, but you could start him if you wanted to. I just don't see great numbers coming out of there because Keenan Allen hasn't been putting up yards. He has been getting a ton of targets, but he hasn't been putting up yards.
Year in and year out, man.
Yep.
It's the same thing.
Consistently inconsistent. Yep.
Just like you talked about Robbie Anderson, it's like, he's just going to be average for you. And then at the end of the year, it looks like it's much, much better.
Yep. Yeah. Well, but with Keenan Allen, what's the problem with him before this season? He's been better this year. Was always like good game, bad game, good game, bad game, good game, bad game, good game, bad game. And he would be like a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, and then he'd be like in the wide receiver 70s, that kind of thing. And just completely unstartable.
Yeah.
Completely unstartable. All right, Miami. What you got?
I have Tua as a pretty good start in a 2 QB league. I mean, LA Chargers give up the 7th most points to opposing quarterbacks. And you've seen it where, last week was a total different start compared to his first start. They really started opening it up, and he looked good out there. I think he had maybe some nerves that first game as a starter. Devontae Parker, I mean, it looks like, what do you think? Wide receiver 3?
I think that's safe. I think that's safe. He could do much better this week. He could. But
I think could. I mean, he's got all the talent, and if he keeps, growing chemistry with Tua, you could be looking at someone that's really going to help you out towards the end of the season into the fantasy playoffs. Preston Williams was placed on IR with a foot injury. I think they carted him off last week, so it's not too surprising that happened. So that means I don't know what's going to happen besides any other wide receiver right now. One name just to keep an eye on, I just want to throw this in here, is Antonio Callaway of the former of Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I was going to say,
he had talent. It's just he got suspended for, the devil's lettuce. But now that's not really, according to the NFL, they're not going to suspend him, but they still had to do it from last year. Yeah. So keep an eye on it. But one guy, let's try it again, Mike Gesicki. I mean, who else are they going to be able to throw to then? If Preston Williams
he's disappeared. Yeah,
I know. So this is just a straight up desperation tight end start at this point when it comes to Mike Gesicki. If this doesn't happen now, I don't know if it's going to happen anymore this year. And let's hope he stays around next year, man.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Denver versus Las Vegas. This is at Las Vegas. Denver off the top. We've got Drew Lock. He's slinging it right now, but
he's
I would
firing
say,
that pigskin.
Yeah, he is. I would say 300 yards, 2 TDs is probably the ceiling for him.
Okay.
And I think he hit that last week. I think that's where his ceiling lies. He might have some sort of outlier game that goes above that here or there, but I don't think that he's got much more in him than that. His only upside at this point, beyond those types of numbers, is his ability to maybe get a rushing touchdown. He's had 2 in the last 3 weeks, and that's a really good option for you.
Yep.
So I would say that he is startable, but I would bet on him being in the back of the QB1 conversation. But that makes him startable. Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay, I'm flexing the two of them. I don't really know what to expect out of the two of them. At any point, Melvin Gordon should get suspended. Probably won't. At this point, it looks like he's not going to. Jerry Jeudy is a start. He's getting on the same page with Locke, and the two of them are rising and falling with one another here. I think that as Jerry Jeudy has gotten better, so has Drew Lock, and as Drew Lock has gotten better, Jerry Jeudy has improved. So I think that the two of them, if one has a good day, the other one does too. So that's where I'm at with that. I think KJ Hamler is actually not a bad play right now, but there's better to be had out there. And so I would say he's probably a wide receiver 4 this week for you if you have a roster that goes that deep or a starting lineup that does. Tim Patrick, I would put in the conversation as a possible wide receiver 3. He does get a lot of good targets, and he is a really good catcher of the ball. Yes. And so it's, the one thing about him is you got to keep your eye on his injury status. He may or may not play this week, or if he is banged up, it might not be the greatest situation. Yeah. And then Noah Fant is a start. We've already talked about him. He's a really good, and I think in our last episode, we talked about him a little bit, maybe. Noah Fant is a good start. He's a solid pass catcher as well. The pass catching is really on this team. It's tough to say who's going to actually excel in any given week at this point. Jerry Jeudy has separated himself a little bit in the last couple of weeks, but KJ Hamler did that at one point. Tim Patrick has done that at one point. Noah Fant has kind of done that. This is a really, really big mess right now, even with Cortland Sutton out. And actually, I saw some quote where Drew Lock was upset that the other tight end, whose name I couldn't even imagine pronouncing, it's Okwuegbunam. I don't know. Yeah. He was upset that dude's out. Like, he actually thinks that he's the best tight end and best pass
Well, it's
catching
his
option.
former college teammate.
Yeah.
They both played at the Mizzou.
Yeah. So, all right, what do you got on Las Vegas?
Las Vegas, this is a guy, Derek Carr. He's made our waiver wires quite a bit. He's had a bit of a couple duds here the last couple of games, but one of them was the Mud Bowl, so I wouldn't really hold that against him. So last week was a little bit of a disappointing though as well. But I mean, I still would say he's a good 2 QB start, and if you have to start him this week, you can. But I look at him as kind of a low end QB2 in this matchup. But Josh Jacobs, I mean, come on down. He's going to get a heavy workload, I think, in this matchup. He lost out on some work last week to Devontae Booker of the former Broncos, but I looked into it a little bit. Josh Jacobs was battling a little bit of an illness, so I think that's maybe why. And he was coming off that 30 carry game that he had the week previous, so
that might have been the illness.
That might have been the illness. So that's what I was getting at. It was just like, maybe that's why they decided to pull him back a little bit. I probably would say he's going to get the full workload in this matchup.
Yeah.
And after that, man, wide receivers, you just can't trust any of them.
Yep.
You really can't. They don't have, like, at least with the Broncos, you can at least trust maybe one or two of them. Yeah. I would feel more better trusting those than anybody else on the Raiders right now. Yeah. But when it comes to receiving, it's Darren Waller. I mean, once again, we've talked about this before this year with Darren Waller. He's getting the pass volume. He's getting the target volume. He needs yards.
Yeah.
He needs touchdowns. I mean, if he does that, you're right behind Travis Kelce in this league right now. Because you're getting the target volume, but there's this whole thing of, getting receiving yards. And usually helps out.
Kelce creates them sometimes for himself, so I would say Waller needs to figure out how to do that.
Yep.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for tonight. We'll do the remainder of the matchups tomorrow. I will throw onto the screen our start, streamers, and fades, as well as our waiver wire episode from this week, so that you can catch up on those if you haven't seen them. Make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as the bell so you're notified every time we upload the podcast. And thank you for being a fan of the Upside. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
See ya.